everybody. Alex Witz here, Sunday night, March 24th. Missed last week, was out in San Diego with the team. So this is the first time you'll be seeing me in the last 2 weeks. I had a good event with the team. Had everyone out in San Diego working on some roadmap items and overall strategy for 2024, messaging, and big things cooking. So we're pretty excited. Last Sunday night was on a flight. Felt like a red eye. Wasn't technically a red eye, but it felt like one. And so missed this recording on Sunday night. I like doing these. I think they're fun to do, and some good banter going in the comments sometimes. Don't always have to agree with me. I know that. So this week, I think that the topic I really want to focus on is the pressure of the rate of change in acquisition and the way that people are viewing the role of AI in that, and the common themes. Like, what are the top three initiatives that we're hearing for distributors in 2024, and the way that they're looking at the role of AI that playing to help solve these challenges. So first of all, let's just look at the rate of change in distribution and some of the things that we're seeing. So if you saw, Home Depot just announced they're opening 4 more distribution centers to focus on B2B. If you look at that, I think today they're over 45% of their sales are B2B today. Doubling down on that bet, they're going to become just as much a distribution business as they are a retailer, more so, right? And I think this is a bet, a very intentional bet in Home Depot in the B2B space, with the realization that there's going to be more spend there. And I think probably less ebbs and flows, less of the yo-yo that you'll see in the market. Other things I think we saw Bostwick Braun, their industrial division, going through an acquisition. We saw quite a few other acquisitions last week in the electrical industry. So this pace is not stopping, right, of acquisition and disruption. Boy, I read an article the other day, and I'm not going to go out there and say I agree with this take, but Facebook, right? I mean, Facebook is becoming just as much a commerce brand as they are anything else. If you go on Facebook, you're always getting sold something. And they actually, talked about the supply chain of Facebook. They're saying, hey, well, with the role of a 3PL in Facebook, we know Amazon's been making bets to get in B2B. Does Facebook try to get into B2B? Boy, that would be a bet. But, I mean, if you look at their role and what they play, I mean, why couldn't that be a marketplace channel for distribution, right? You could put it in some 3PL warehouse. Hell, you could just put your ads on Facebook to go sell B2B. If you have the right buyer intent who needs something in Facebook, it doesn't seem that absurd of a thought. But I think, the main overarching thought and theme here is you're seeing new entrants, right? You're seeing more people stepping into this, especially, look, when you have something good, when the consumer market maybe just isn't as hot, when tech isn't as good, where do people want to put their bets, right? You see private equity companies coming in, buying up distribution companies because the stability and the profitability is appealing. So you'll start to see other people, Home Depot, making a bet in B2B. Why not Facebook, right? So we're going to continue to see more competition. Competition is going to look different. I do believe we're going to start to see crossover of B2B and B2C. We have a couple customers who were like, well, we do B2C because, well, we can, right? Because we can, and it makes us money. And so I think we're going to start to see this emergence. B2B companies maybe taking on some B2C where they can, when the dollars and when the dollars make sense to doing so. So all these pressures, what are the top 3 themes that we're hearing just lately out of distributors? So one is coming out of a down market, tons of optimism through towards the end of the year. So people are actually bullish on sales and what they're expecting for sales, but they don't know how bullish to be. How bullish this bounce back or rebound. I think we saw January factory manufacturer orders were down less than 1%. But we're starting to see this tick up, right? So that's a positive sign. But what is not positive is how fast does that hockey stick start to tick north, and that causes the number one challenge that we're seeing, which is supply chain and inventory. Supply chain inventory. How do we predict this? I had a post on LinkedIn. It was earlier this past week, and someone commented and they're like, yeah, okay, well, how do you see in the HVAC market, how do you see equipment sales versus equipment versus consumables? And well, obviously you get some consumer behavior in there too. And the question was really around where you position your inventory for the consumables versus the equipment line, and the repairs and replacement parts. So I think some of this depends largely on the vertical and the market, but at the end of the day, everyone has the same question about how we write on the inventory, right? Well, so we're not. It's like the Goldilocks zone. I don't want to be too long. I don't want to be too short. How do we get spot on? And a lot of companies are looking to AI right now. If you look at the 3 themes across all 3 themes of the big strategic goals and initiatives or topics that executives are talking about, so it's supply chain, right? How do we right size our supply chain, our inventory, given some uncertainty, right? Do we stay flat? Does it bounce back? How do we not stay long with given the unpredictable markets? 2 is sales. How do we go attack new revenue channels when we're seeing our competitors make acquisitions and step into territories? We're starting to see new competitors that look different than they ever have before, right? I didn't ever have to compete with Home Depot. Now I do. I didn't have to compete with Amazon. Now I do, right? And you're starting to see, large distributors get into new spaces, try to expand their market basket. So the other thing is sales, and how do we penetrate new markets without getting outside of our comfort zone or getting outside of our skill set. And then that third piece is just optimization of our operations, which I think falls really across so many different departments and ways. But these are the 3 themes. And right now there's kind of like an easy button answer. Like everyone's like, well, let's look to AI. If we look to AI for this. But there was let's break down AI on the 3 different topics, right? So you have supply chain and inventory, 1, right? Supply chain, inventory. 2, you have sales, right? And then how do you penetrate new markets? How do you fend off threats from new entrants? And then 3, you have just automation in your operation in general, and how do you make your operation as most efficient and effective as you can. So if you look across those 3 channels, people are just saying AI, right? I mean, right now it's a hot trend. Ever since the release of ChatGPT 8 months ago, distribution has started to tick up. Alex Mozad, you guys know I mentioned him quite a bit. He just had a post that came out earlier today, and he talked about the number of distribution and supply chain companies in their earnings report that mentioned AI Guess the number, wait for it, drum roll, 0. Compare that to the other sectors of technology and finance. How many executives in the financial earnings to Wall Street are mentioning AI on a percentage basis? 50. So we're still behind, right? Distribution's still behind on not only the application of AI, but also just like the willingness to try things out. And the thing is, because the risk tolerance just isn't there, right? It's not the same, and it can't be the same when you're talking about profit margins that aren't near the same as some of these other industries and verticals. But it does feel like in a lot of ways we still are saying, well, AI could solve it, right? Without a lot of meat or a lot of teeth behind that. And so talking through supply chain first, right? This I thought this was a great parallel. Okay. AI has yet to get a perfect bracket in the NCAA tournament. It hasn't done it yet, right? Will it ever? I mean, who knows, right? Because we're talking about something that is unpredictable, right? This is not a math equation. So it doesn't matter how great your AI model is, it can't predict something that is quite literally unpredictable. Supply chain is the same thing. Your supply chain is very much like the NCAA bracket. You cannot predict that the Suez Canal is going to have issues, right? You cannot predict that there will be flight pattern disruptions over Alaska. You just can't. You can't predict COVID, right? And so AI is not going to be able to predict things, just like it can't predict the NCAA bracket. It's not going to be able to, and it can't predict your supply chain. But the role of AI in the way that I think is, and this is a shift I think that everyone needs to make, is like, it's not to be able to start to predict for you, make predictions in uncertain times. It's to help you make decisions when things are uncertain and information is less clear. Okay. So rather than say, oh, you're going to help me get my inventory exactly right. Well, that's not right. But it's going to say, when we're long, how can we offload it? When we're short, what can we do to right size it, right? How in unpredictable times can we try to make some certainty of uncertain data? And I think that's probably the mindset shift of, like, people go into supply chain AI and if they think, oh, this is going to help me make sure that I've pinned the tail exactly on the donkey with my inventory, so I'm spot on, like, your expectations are inaccurate, right? Your expectations need to be, can we make better decisions when things get disrupted? When the unpredictable happens, can I make better decisions, right? And so I actually had a conversation with the founder of Amplio. And if you don't know these guys, what they're doing is freaking awesome. Right? I mean, basically their premise, and they all came, the founders of Amplio came from supply chain tech, right? To be able to predict supply chain. And ultimately they said, scrap the idea that we can even try to predict supply chain. But rather than that, why don't we just provide a tool that's going to help people right size it when they are short or when they are long? So what they created is a marketplace to be able to offload or to go buy inventory from other B2B organizations. And so I think you should look at the role of AI in supply chain and be thinking about it in that sense. Like, how can it help me make the right decisions, the best decisions for my organization? And specifically at Continuum, like, the way that we look at it is, how can we help you get better visibility, real-time visibility into product that's coming back, so you can go resell it or put it on a better route to go get to another customer, maybe in the same area, maybe on a truck that's already heading out to another customer. When we talk about the reverse logistics process, how do we get visibility to that quicker so that we're not going and buying or sourcing something that we don't need, especially when we're talking about CapEx product lines, or maybe even spot buys or non-traditional buys. That could save a lot of heartache and pain in the organization. The other one is sales, right? And I think this is the one where AI probably could get stronger, like, and you still need a human, is to identify markets that you're not in yet, to start to penetrate those. So, for example, if you're selling industrial tools, well, are you selling to municipalities yet? Have you gone and tapped that market? Are you selling to the airports? Do you have a good foothold on that? And I think AI is probably going to struggle for a bit to get there and help you with that, especially with the lack of data around the industries. But where it is great today is, repeat buys. Hey, what should your customers be buying that they typically buy and stop buying? What should they be buying based off their buying cycles, based off like customers, things like that. So I think it's there. But when you talk about like your account planning or your territory mapping or your new segmentation of where to get into it, and we look at like this second pillar, I still think there's going to be a lot of human intervention that's needed there. When you talk about like, how can we expand if our market basket of same customers are not growing at the same rate? We need to continue to grow. Well, that means we need to look at adjacent markets. I think there's going to be a lot of human intervention needed there. Don't know of any tools that are going to help on the account planning mapping side. If anyone has any, drop them in the comments or let me know. I've been wrong many times before. And then the last piece is just automation in general, right? Automation and optimization of your operation in general. And this one, like, I think if I was a distributor and I was looking at my business, if I ever didn't have a project going on, like active project to automate activities in my business, I probably would just say, okay, time out. We need to go take a look. I'm going to interview everyone in sales, everyone in my CSR group, everyone in the warehouse group, and I'm going to document how they spend their time. Like, I'm going to actually say, okay, 20% of the time is on this, 30% is on this, 50% on this, right? And I'm going to actually document out by department. And then I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to go like validate that. Right. And I don't think you need to sit there with a stopwatch and do that. But like that process, you should be doing that, because if you stepped inside of Amazon and you said, hey, I'm going to go look at how much manual processing time is done with an order. Like none. It's all automated, right? Their warehouses, their fulfillment centers, automated, right? And so to be able to compete like these companies, like the $5 billion distributors, you have to think about operational efficiency like them. Because if you don't stand a chance. Because it's math. They get better net margin on every sale than you do, which gives them more oxygen dollars to go compete and to go acquire more companies. And this is why I think it's like, I look at this game of basically just overall distribution manufacturing, and it's really all about how can I compete with these bigger companies. And the acquisition rate continues to happen where you start to think, wow, there might be only in every industry, every vertical, there might only be 4 or 5 of these guys when this is all said and done, right? Well, I don't know if it's really 4 or 5, but the math says they're able to compete at such a different level, because if they make a 1% improvement in their business on $5 billion, that's massive. If you're $50 million and you make a 1% improvement, it doesn't mean the same, right? So it just becomes an unfair advantage, but you have to continuously be pushing on these things and just start making your list. Okay, once we knock this process off, I'm moving to this process. Once I knock this process off, I'm moving to this process. And you'll look back 3-4 years later and you'll say, wow, we are a tech company just as much as we are a distribution and fulfillment company. And when you can combine that with the true principles of what a distributor's value is last mile delivery, customer experience. I love that my computer does that. And you're a credit house. I know we don't like to think that, but that's really it, right? Can I solve problems better for my customers than anyone else, Amazon or any of these big guys? Can I get them product faster than anyone else? And potentially cheaper because of the last mile, right? The localization. And 3, can I give them better terms than they could get somewhere else? All right. If I can compete on the operational side, then I can focus back on these 3 things that really make me unique and differentiated. And where you can apply AI within all that, well, that's where you got to go through the process and really dial that in. But yeah, so it was just thinking through what I was going to chat through tonight, and these were the top 3 priorities or executive topics that we're hearing where distributors are focused for 2024. Hearing AI in a lot of these different themes and buckets. And I just want to give my thoughts on how you can go apply AI or where you maybe can't go apply AI in these different areas. Always great catching up with everyone. Really appreciate you watching, checking out the video. And until next week, we'll see you. Signing off.